I'm CK. Over the last couple of months I've built two bass drum modules. Both of them were good, serviceable, but they didn't have exactly the sound I really wanted and were somewhat limited in customizations. So I looked around and I picked up Patching Panda BD-Z that looks like it'll address some of that. It's got some real fine-tuning abilities and some broader abilities too, but looks like I'll be able to customize the sound to really what I'm looking for. So we'll put the kit together and then hear how it sounds. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's see what's in the bag. And as usual, I've picked this up from thonk.co.uk. That's where I buy most of my kits. Not exclusively, but most of the time. Looks like some paper and another sticker. I already got Patching Panda stickers. Like some paper and the PCB and front panel look to be in this. So let's open it up and see what we've got. Okay, we already learned a little something there. Let's see. Beware! The silkscreen on the mini PCB and the trimmers are upside down. Oh. Okay. Please refer to patchingpanda.com to assemble this module. So apparently we've got some stuff wrong on the PCB. That's okay. We know now. Let's take a look at it. Look at this. There's a lot of surface mount on this. I think it's almost all surface mount. I did not know that when I bought this. That's fine, but it just means we're going to have less to put together. Here's the mini PCB, and again, it looks like the only soldering we're going to be doing on this is a transistor, a couple of pin headers, the trimmers. That looks like a foil foil capacitor, and this mini board that will go on there. It's probably, you know, I forget all the names, you know, like a Raspberry Pi, but there are so many now I can't keep track. It's a good board, the typical black surface mount board. So it looks like instead of where the silkscreen says put them on this side, it looks like we're going to put them on this side. That's great. Let's look at the front panel and see what the controls look like. Trigger, envelope, out, accessory, I don't know, transform, amplitude modulation, shape, decay, attack decay, P decay, and volts per octave. I guess you can tune this to a certain extent, like a timpani. This one doesn't have a label, don't know what that is. A decay and P decay, it's probably pots, amount pot, transform, AM. Then we can go to square, pure sine wave, and it looks like a square wave that with rounded corners. Now I don't know if that's just the silk screening or if that's actual. Then level and ACC and tune to fine tune it. Okay. Look at the other bits and pieces. Power supply. I bet the funky little board is in here. I can get my scissors out of the rack. At least they're on the rack and not scattered around the workshop. Huh, that's interesting. So here's the mini PCB with what looks to be a microcontroller in the middle. I don't know what it is. It says VCO TZFM VCO transform, I don't know. And they've already soldered the pin headers on it for you, and that looks like not great quality solder in my opinion, but Different people like different things, I guess. So I'm gonna just do a test look here. And I think we will want to put this, trying to get the pins to line up. I think we'll want to put this on about like so, but I'll look at the website just to make sure in a little bit. What else do we have in here? I'm just going to go ahead and dump everything out. Pin headers to connect the two boards. I'll throw that foam away. Bunch of jacks, bunch of pots. Most of the jacks have their, I hope all the jacks have their panel nuts unscrewed. Yay! So I don't have to do that. These pins on this trimmer got all bent up during shipping. Straighten them out a little bit before we even get started. Needle nose pliers are great for straightening out pins because you can get them all parallel all at one time. Should be good. Anything else interesting here? The knobs are simply press on. They have no retaining nuts. We have, I think, a spacer or something to, two of them. I think they keep the two main boards together. Yeah, it looks like there's a hole here and a hole here to put these thingies in there. And a couple of LEDs. Let's see what color these LEDs are. Let me get my meter. Turn it on. Go into continuity mode. Put the black lead on the negative or cathode side, and then the red lead on the positive side. Oh, they're kind of amber. That one's amber. I'm going to assume both of them are the same color, or else they probably would have mounted them differently. Oh, no, that one's blue. Huh. Well, okay. I'm going to mark these. Cap. No, just the two LEDs. Yeah, it looks like one capacitor, one transistor, and the LEDs are the only electronic, and the trimmers are the only electronic components we're going to be doing, since the rest is all surface mount already installed. So that means it's going to be a pretty quick build. That's what I'm trying to say. Oh, this is a tap switch. Okay, so I bet this is where the we'll have this tap switch in it for, I don't know, for some reason. We'll find out as we go along. So that's everything in the bag. We'll get the soldering iron heated up and get this thing started. Okay, so we went to the website, and after a bit of looking around, because the build guide's not linked directly off the product page, which I think is a mistake. Quite a complex build, be careful, yeah. Then showing you exactly what's going on with the trimmers, showing you where to put everything, and then with the multimeter, check LED color. Place the blue on the left and the orange on the right. We already did that. And that's pretty much it. They do show you very clearly where the notch on the mini PCB needs to go, which is good. And there's some modifications to have a punchier attack. I'm not going to do that. I personally find that if I want a punchier attack in the bass drum, I'll double the bass drum track with a tom or a snare right at the same point, because I find the attack in a tom or a snare, if I want a really punchy bass drum, can blend in with the bass drum attack. That's just me. But if you're not just working in the studio, if you're in a club situation or live performance, yeah, you may want to do that modification, and it tells you how to do it. So let's dive into this. So the first thing we're going to do is the pretty boring thing, which will be putting... Now, I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm looking here and saying... I'm just counting pins in my head, making sure I've got the right parts in the right place. Yeah, I do. Where did I put the other PCB? So we're going to put female pin headers on this board. God, I'm so bad about getting things out of bags, aren't I? Get my solder pad over here. And we'll do one leg of this pin header. Pick it up, and it is not straight, which is fine. Just heat that solder ball up again. Press it down with my finger, and it works out just fine. No muss, no fuss. Do the same thing with this one. A little bit of solder. Oh, that's pretty much perpendicular as is. Now I'll do the rest of these pins. I'm getting this easy part out of the way real quick. And that's the pin headers. Now, one thing to look at here, just verifying that everything is still good. One thing to be careful of when you're working with a pre-soldered SMD board is there are two resistors right here, right along this row, and it can be very easy to brush your iron against them or have the barrel of the iron too close, and that can weaken the solder joints on these, and they can slip or come off completely, and you might not notice, and it's really hard to see. So just have a lot of good discipline when you're soldering around surface mount components that are already pre-installed. Now we're going to put the two trimmers on, and they are both the same. Even though interesting... Oh yeah, they're both the same. I thought they were printed differently for a second. And again, there are two resistors and one resistor right here in the middle that you got to be very careful of, or you will be sad. Okay, this is not a transistor, it's a voltage regulator. And that's what we're going to be putting on next, if I could find it. There's the cap, and there's the voltage regulator. So no, it's a disc cap that goes up here. It just has a big square box like a foil cap would have. That's interesting. And then this is a MC79L. I assume it's, yeah, it's for 5 volts, negative 5 volts in this case. I'm going to do the spacers. And the power connector, and what? That's on the other board, isn't that? Where is it? here. Oh, there it is. Because these will stack. Kind of like, they will stack like so. Yep, there's the holes. Actually, I'm trying to figure it out now. Before I do that, I'll just put the power connector on. Now, our little spacers and screws. Put the little screw with the extra screw over there so I don't lose it. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say so I don't lose it, because I'll probably forget where it is. But theoretically, not lose it. Push that through, and this spacer has got ridges on it, so I can really crank it down without having to drag a screwdriver out. Now these are countersink screws, and the holes aren't countersunk, so they stick up a little bit. I'm going to see if this jack gets interfered with by that screw. Oh no, that's not a jack, that's a pot. If this, no, because the pot's raised off the board, so it's not going to be a problem. Now we'll do the other. Just be careful not to put your thumb on the surface mount components that are already installed, because you might nudge them out of place without even knowing it. Now we're going to put all the pots and switches, pots and jacks on the board. He recommends straightening out these legs a little bit, the support legs a little bit, and again you can do that with pretty easily with a pair of needle nose pliers. I didn't even look. I know you're saying, what value are these? These are all, I think they're all 100Ks. But I should have checked that first. Yeah, they're all 100Ks, so I'll go quickly through this. I'll speed up the playback so you don't have to watch me fumbling and straightening legs out and stuff. We're stopping here for a second because I'm going in the order of the tools of the guide, and it skipped the step of putting the pin headers on to connect the two boards, and I noticed it because when I was going to put this pot on here, it blocks these pins. So I'm going to go ahead and put the pin headers on. They may want to revise their build guide, and in step 3, where it says screw the metal spacers inside of the power mail connector, it should also include and install the board-to-board pin headers. And it looks like he would like us to have the female pin headers on this board. Doesn't really matter, of course, but I'll go with what he has done for his setup. And I'll go ahead and put the pin headers on the other board. And we do have this 3-pin header, which Looks like it would go here. No. I'm not sure what that 3-pin header does, because it's only on the one. It's only on... I'm sorry, I'm confusing myself again. It's only on this side. I think it's a test port or an output port. Let me see if he says anything about that. But since it doesn't, there's no way for it to connect to this board. I figure it's just something coming out the back that you can use to program, adjust, trigger, do something, but not something I'm particularly concerned about in this build. Now I'm back to putting pots on the board. While we're here, we'll put the LEDs, drop them through their holes. Question is, oh, I see. You're not even gonna, you'll see the LEDs through this grow work. There's not holes for the LEDs to poke through. Oh, we'll put the tap button in. Flat side is here. Flat side on the tap button will go to that. Now we'll put all the jacks in place. Oh, I'm going to do one thing before I do that. I have a little habit that I have, and I'll put that pot back in a second. I'm going to solder one of these pot legs or pot pins to help me for alignment later. Okay, and there's everything. You may have seen me fussing a bit with the jacks. They're not all oriented the same way because he had to work around where to put the ground pins. I've seen other people double up ground pins to get around that, but he chose not to. That's fine. Now we'll drop the front panel on and use my little pokey thing to get all the components lining up through their holes. Come on, guys, let's participate. There we go, come on. It's really it's the pots with their threaded shafts that are what you have to really adjust for. There we go. Now we're down over most of them. There we go. Now we're all down. Now that one pot that I put that dot of solder on way back when, I'm going to spin down a panel nut on it. Use my Buffaco panel nut wrench. Comes with every Buffaco kit. I've got like 10 of them. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push the boards together. I'm going to grab my locking tweezers, grip the board together a little bit like that, and I'm going to do a similar thing, which is I'm going to do one leg of this jack, keeping the board tightly together. The panel nut jack doesn't work. I mean, panel nut tool doesn't work well on these type of panel nuts. But now nothing's shaking around. I can finish up soldering everything without having to worry about anything moving. The only thing you will want to be careful with is the push button screw or the tap the tap switch can slide back and forth in and out like that. See that? So you want to get it down on the circuit board as much as you can. So that's another case where you probably want to secure it a little bit with your finger and solder one leg before you go on to fully soldering everything. And that's what I'm going to be doing next, which means, oh, the other thing, I'm going to push these, make sure these are, you know, I don't know whether I want them flat up against the grill or not. I think I want a little more ambience. I'll pull them back to where they're I'm going to pull them flat to the board. Let me see what he does, if I can tell. Yeah, he has them flat to the board too. I think that will be a better look, because then it'll be just kind of glowing instead of a direct point source in your face of light. Okay, so I'm going to go into fast replay and do all this soldering. All the front panel components are soldered down. Let me get my index card out and go through each one to make sure, number one, I soldered them all. Number two, the solder joints look good. And number three, making sure I didn't get to these legs. I don't care about the legs. And number three, which is probably most important, is did I dislodge any surface mount components? Because there are places on here, these LED legs, see, they're right next to, almost touching these resistors. These jack pins, many of them are very, very close to surface mount components. So again, I can't emphasize it enough. Be very careful when you're soldering this one together. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put the two boards, actually I'm going to put the mini board in its pins, and again, the notch is there and the notch is there. It's hard to see, but he also indicates make sure that the notch is pointing to the left, and we are. So put that on. That goes in well. Now I'm going to mate the two boards, because again I missed two of the potentiometer support legs, but I don't care. It's for my studio rack. It's not going anywhere. I'm not going to be hanging Christmas lights off my potentiometers, so it'll be fine. Now I'll press these together. It looks good. And now we can put the screws that we saved from earlier that will secure the boards together. Ah, that's my flathead. That's for adjusting trimmers. That's not what I need. I need a cross tip. Now I'm going to have the fun of putting all the panel nuts on, and I will definitely speed through that process. So panel nuts going on really fast. So that's all the panel nuts. Next part is putting all the knobs on and trying to get them in some agreeing somewhat in position. Now, oh, by the way, you might have noticed on the panel nuts, I didn't use any of the washers. I never use washers on behind panel nuts. That's my choice. I don't recommend that for anybody, just so you know why I did that. So negative 12 volt there, red stripe, negative 12 volt. Put the connector on. And she's ready to base dramatize. Let's take a look at it. It's the front. Tap button, make sure it's free and clear and tapping very well. Side. The back. Other side. Top. And the bottom. And I'm going to look at one thing right here. I don't know if this is an optical illusion or not, but so it's 11 millimeters board to board there, and it is 11.25 millimeters there. Okay, it's not as distant as I thought. So that's it. Now it's time to put it in the rack and see how it sounds. Now we've got a calibration step that I don't think I'm going to do, but we'll see. But it's to set the tuning on the drum, and I'm not really sure I care about that. But if you do, you plug in, send a C1, and tune it to C1, send a C9, and tune it to C9 using the trimmers on the back. I'm not sure, again, if I'm not going to do that. But let's go ahead and see what this thing sounds like. Ha! See, this is why. See this? That's the power cable. We need to have that plugged in. Technically, it's a technical thing. There we go. Now let's see what it sounds like. So I hope you can see in here, you can see the blue and the amber LED lighting up. I'm going to take the note value down, even though, where is my CV here? Volts for CV. Let me get into the cable. So that sounds good. I'm going to play with some stuff. We'll increase the attack delay. I'm going to take this way down if I can. I'm going to take the P decay down. I mean up. That sounds kind of neat. Let me see what this trigger does. Tell you, that just allows us to test it. Are we sure we're all the way down here? So, okay, I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to switch the input to my sequencer. And run that. Now let me change the waveform. I'm going to slow the sequencer down a little bit so we can get a little more definition here. The P decay is really interesting. Now I'm going to take the VCO into attack decay. That just varies it somewhat. That's not too interesting. Let's try it on the P decay side. That could be fun. I'm really not sure what ACC means, so let me take a look at that. ACC is accent. I should have known that. So that's what it does, and the scope wasn't showing anything particularly interesting, so I'm not going to include it. Sounds really good. The attack decay and the P decay make some interesting stuff, make good shaping. I like that quite a bit. I don't hear a difference when I'm moving the waveform knob. That may just be me, my ears are not picking it up, but in general, see, that's one. I'm not hearing a difference there. Are you? So I can't figure that out. Everything else is interesting. So I think this is a great module. It's going to do what I wanted, which is spice up my bass drum a little bit more. And I hope you enjoyed the video.